Hello and welcome back to Aston Martin's journey through F1 Manager 2022, and we're here in Spain off the back. Spoilers if you haven't watched it yet, link down below if you haven't. Click it now, otherwise you will be spoiled about our Miami result. Right, good. You've done that now? Good, right. Points finish in Miami. 2 points for Sebastian Vettel, nothing for Stroll because his tyres fell off, unfortunately, in the dying stages there. Otherwise he might have just nicked 10. So let's hope we can carry this momentum into Spain, a Spanish Grand Prix that could see us with a rear wing if we decide to spend money manufacturing it in time. Didn't realise it was going to be ready in time, so fingers crossed. There is also a point to distribute on Sebastian Vettel. After his excellent performance in Miami, he does have a point available, but it is basically another 3,000 until next one. And you can see his experience gain per week is now up to 94, which isn't shabby. It's basically what Lance Stroll was getting per week at the start of the game, and his smoothest attribute is probably actually why he did better than Lance in that race, just because he held on to those hard tyres that little bit longer. So in theory, actually, if anything, I should be pitting Vettel before Stroll knowing this, but we'll put a point into braking. Doesn't do anything for his overall rating. Eagle Eye viewers will spot that Hulkenberg's on 77. He got a development point. I put it in his braking, which is 50, and they actually took him up to 77. As for drivers, I am now scouting Pierre Gasly and Alexander Albon as replacements for Stroll. And I think regardless of who comes back as the better option, I might try and install them in time for the British Grand Prix, which is effectively Aston's home race. It's not quite Alexander Albon's home race, as he has taken up Thai citizenship officially, but he is obviously Thai and British, so it's sort of his own race at the same time. We allow Stroll to have Canada, and whether it's Pierre or Albon or even Piastri, even if we decide that to be an option, I think we might replace Stroll for Britain, and then Pierre gets his home Grand Prix a couple later on, along with his sort of former Constructor Grand Prix at Austria from the Red Bull ring, but not in a Red Bull style car, we'll say Red Bull family car. So this is the major upgrade that we've been waiting for in regards to facilities, this CFD simulator that will double all future improvements in terms of how much it adds to the part per hour in the CFD. You can see here the facility effects. I do realize when I was actually doing that, I was in the way of showing this. But you can see it will double the percentage gain on every single thing, and most importantly, double the downforce gain on every single hour they spend in the CFD hours. So we can maybe try and target the wind tunnel. It's 10 million for the wind tunnel. I almost want to wait until its condition goes down a bit more. So we're also having to pop in, and it's not going to be a problem in terms of penalty or anything like that, but pop in a new engine and gearbox on Lance Stroll's car. We're also going to put the new engine on Seb's car as well, and then revert to the older engines in Monaco, just when they're slightly less effective or needed. It's probably the sensible plan. And there is the rear wing design. So with the rear wing coming in, I'm putting all the remaining hours in this period into a new chassis, which will only see vaguely marginal gains, but actually really help engine cooling as a whole, which will hopefully help engine wear in the long term as well. This will take 22 days to design. Actually, that seems a lot quicker. And once again, I don't feel like it's a bad idea to run this on intense because it's only 200 grand. So it will take 3 days to develop one of these, and we've only got 2 days. I feel like I said it before, I feel like it's a risk to only manufacture 2 of these in case there's an incident. So we're going to emergency manufacture 3 rear wings, and then just regular build 3 as well. So having already just popped that installation on and forgetting to actually show you the differences, you can see what the reverse difference would be. The major-ish gains are in dirty air cornering in regards to this. It's about 0.5% all things considered, and just marginal differences everywhere else. And the helipad will provide a extra percentage on sponsor targets. And speaking of, we managed Q2 last time, only 20 grand if we fail. So these rewards have gone up an extra percent, and actually they all go into 3 digits for the first time. That's now 101% in the race. If we get one driver above 15th, we got both drivers above 15th. Why are we not on 1 out of 2 qualifying position streak? This is a mandatory thing, and Vettel qualified 14th last race. Why is this not on 1 out of 2? As for the race, it requires one driver to finish 15th in 3 consecutive races. I feel like we only take the gamble with the Q2 qualifying. I'm still not confident we'll finish 15th in a race, particularly 3 in a row, and that would cost us 200 grand if we fail, 800 grand if we succeed. I'd like to see a little bit more consistency from our drivers.
Formula 1 F1 has cranked up the heat over Barcelona. Grand Prix held here was won by Nigel Mansell after a wheel-to-wheel battle with Ayrton Senna, who will follow in his footsteps this weekend. Long straights and medium-speed turns dominate here, but there's something else to watch out for at Barcelona. The air currents are strong and unpredictable, and they'll be giving aerodynamic components a real run for their money this weekend. Okay then, let's get to it.
The final flying lap of Sebastian Vettel here, and he is in a good position to get past the Haas, at least into Q1. Both, well, Mick's already crossed the line, he's worse. Apologies, I realised the rest of this qualifying session I've been muted. But at the very least, we get through it at a good point. Magnussen is behind, unfortunately, but Vettel goes across the line. Doesn't really improve his time dramatically. Stroll goes across the line directly behind us. Does he get past Mick Schumacher? He does not. Bottas did indeed improve his time hilariously much, as did Zhou, but nowhere near as much. Oh, someone else just crossed the line and went faster than Vettel. Well, that was depressing. K-Mag. It was K-Mag across the line last that did it. So we're back to being out in Q1, but we've sandwiched Mick in between us this time. That's a problem. I've clearly been muted probably all the way through practice. The only saving grace here is that K-Mag does have a minimum 3-place grid penalty.
Here we are, folks. We're back for another day of scintillating F1 action. It's race day.
And the clouds today look very ominous, which means that teams may have to contend with rain at some point during the race.
Well, Formula One is back in Barcelona, and the teams have got their work cut out for them.
Interesting. Rain for the race? Partly cloudy. Okay, probably not rain then. Ignore Karun, it doesn't look like it is going to rain. It just says partly cloudy. Nothing going there, I don't think. Valtteri Bottas qualified 7th in Barcelona here. That evidently points to the damage in Miami, considering he qualified behind us in Miami. Max on pole, though, for I think might be the first time this season. Carlos Sainz, Leclerc and Perez. Perez actually was on pole for Miami. I think the Ferraris have been on pole every other time up till now. Magnussen's penalty is not enough to see Sebastian Vettel gain a position either. He will only go to 15th, probably. It's probably a 3-place penalty. So 66 laps. Let's see what the strategies are. Medium, medium, soft, soft, medium, soft, hard, medium, soft. The softs can go a relative distance here, as we've discovered. And I was drawn to it immediately. It does appear, even out of the 3 that they suggested, to be the fastest option. Righto then, same strategy for both drivers. Soft, medium, soft. We do have 2 fresh pairs of softs because we only ran 2 in qualifying and you get an extra one for the race. So we don't have that disadvantage that anyone who got into Q2 does, in theory. Looking at the overall strategies, we can actually push on the medium and the latter softs on both cars. Away we go.
The drivers have now taken position on the grid, and it's looking like a cloudy day. There's Sebastian Vettel. Slower than most yesterday, so today they'll be starting from the bottom half of the grid. There's Lance Stroll, down the grid. With their starting position in the back 10, they'll have their work cut out for them. The race start is mere seconds away. One of the oldest races on the Formula One calendar is the Spanish Grand Prix, and it's lights out, and away we go.
Away we go indeed, and that's a lot of engines to contend with. Pushing off the line. Lots of cars pulling out to try and pull an overtake off. Our lads have got a little bit sandwiched towards the back. Unfortunately, I think actually Mick's got past Lance Stroll. No, Mick was already ahead of Lance Stroll. I don't know where Magnussen started, but he's behind Mick now. Vettel is up to 15th. And contending with Daniel Ricciardo. In fact, he's on the outside of Daniel Ricciardo right now. Vettel does have the inside line going into the left-hander though, and I think has taken Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo's off the track somewhat.
That's it.
Seb's taken an unconventional line and gone on the inside of the AlphaTauri 2. He's passed Tsunoda into P30. What a start.
Aston Martin have just gained a race position.
I don't want to watch any of these replays just because he's still going. He's even having a little sniff at Zhou Guan Yu. Meanwhile, Stroll cannot go past either Haas.
Doing a good job, keep pushing.
Michelle there with fantastically patronising praise. Across the line to complete the first full lap, Seb's having a go at Zhou Guan Yu again, and might actually get him by the end of the lap. By the end of the straight, I mean.
Good.
Stroll's got Magnussen behind, and Vettel has indeed got Zhou Guan Yu by the looks of things. Sebastian Vettel is up to 12th.
Aston Martin with a great play there. They've moved up a place.
I will actually
Let's take
watch
a
this
look at the
replay because we only saw it on
So
board.
this was the Aston Martin.
No DRS involved. This is a straight up deployment. And you can actually see Lance behind. The Williams are...
Moving up a place there.
Oh, bless them.
Excellent work from them. I think safe to say that went down well with the team.
Oh, good God. Latifi's ahead of Albon, but miles off everyone else after one lap. I feel so sorry for Williams and anyone doing a Williams career. I thought Aston was frustrating at the beginning of all this.
Good job.
Sebastian's on the inside of an Alpine here, going into, well, heading towards the back straight. If there was DRS, this is where DRS would be. Stroll's overtaken Schumacher in the background. Seb's yielded to Ocon for no apparent reason there. So Stroll's up to 16th behind on the tail of Daniel Ricciardo, and the Haas are struggling to keep up whilst we're deploying everything in these early stages. The good news is we can sort of push these tyres a little bit. If it means we have to push slightly less on the mediums, we can do.
DRS will be active.
Dear Lord, the overspeed Seb has on Ocon's hard tyres there. Ocon started on hards. There was an option that started with hards in the main three strategies. Seems like Ocon's taking that one. And Sebastian Vettel is up to 11th.
Let's see what happened there. Taking
And
a
we can
look
watch that one again.
It involves Sebastian.
Done exactly the same thing. Just an overspeed due to tyres and deployment. Now DRS is active. I could probably tell them to stop deploying ERS.
Race position gain.
All right, so we bring it back a notch on everything there, and I think we can probably bring it back to standard by the end of that. Oh, Seb had a weird little wobble there. So DRS now active on this back straight, allowing him to stay on the tail of Pierre Gasly, who obviously has a flying start to the season and could potentially be in the Aston Martin come the middle of this season if we opt for that strategy. Who else started on soft tyres out of curiosity? Hamilton, and both Haas did, surprisingly, along with Bottas in the Alfa Romeo. And despite Bottas being on the soft tyres and qualifying 7th, he's gone backwards. With DRS, Sebastian Vettel has just gone up the inside of Pierre Gasly, nearly almost took both of them, it looked like. Still has his nose in round this corner on Pierre, and it is a right-hander at the end of this as well. Double right-hander might give him the position on Pierre Gasly. And looking at the back of Norris, who has 0 DRS on anyone else. Norris is the head of this DRS queue, which goes all the way back to Magnussen in 18th. We saw that one live. We won't watch the replay. Sebastian Vettel is in the points on lap 4. Are we giving Sebastian Vettel a new lease of life with these few upgrades that he's got on already? And with the DRS, pushes Norris completely off the track, it looked like there, but makes the move. But Norris comes back, and actually that could be a good thing for us if Norris takes this position back. I suspect Seb's going to back out here. Nope, goes over the corner. There's the DRS detection line. Sebastian's behind, yields... Oh god, that's an awful animation situation. Sebastian Vettel's got DRS, thankfully, which should help things here, but that's one of those problematic yield spots. He should have had a huge run on Norris there, but he yielded for no reason whatsoever. So 5 laps into this race, there is a front 3 once again. This time it's Leclerc, who has got past Verstappen, and Hamilton into 3rd. Sainz is a little bit off in 4th. Perez is keeping him company there. Russell once again just driving by himself, although not entirely by himself. Stroll's locked up. Good job, Stroll. Alonso is behind him with Bottas as well. Norris is in front of his own queue, which goes all the way back to Magnussen. Stroll's no longer in that because he locked up.
Here's the replay.
Let's watch him fail.
It's Lance. Well, they blocked up. They won't have been happy about
No
that.
damage, it seems, but he's out of a DRS train and therefore is utterly stuffed for the remainder of the race. Back to medium, and in fact, I think I need to put Seb on medium as well.
Yeah, take it easy.
And obviously, I need to bring his fuel down as well. Importantly, Mick Schumacher has lost Daniel Ricciardo here, so that is another break in the DRS train. Meanwhile, Vettel got past Norris. Well, despite telling him to reduce everything, he has got past Norris this time. Without doing a stupid yield at the end there, I think that's benefited him massively.
Gaining a position there. They make it look so easy.
That is an impressive move, actually.
The driver's team there cheering them on.
Let's not forget, anyone who got into Q2 only has one good set of soft tyres. And anyone who starts on a medium here will be running medium, medium, soft as a strategy because that was the option. That was option A in the strategy list. Option B was what we're doing, soft, medium, soft. And option C, I think, was hard, medium, soft, which a couple are doing as well. That is, Ocon and the Williams are doing hard, medium, soft, I would imagine. And actually, in terms of overall tyres, not doing awfully. Bottas is on 83% as well. So we've effectively pushed these soft tyres to the equivalent of having used them in qualifying in regards to Bottas. But now we brought him back to medium on both. Fuel is medium on both. Vettel is ahead of this train now, though, and Norris will just sweep by, I imagine, and this will just be trading places for the remainder of this. I can't imagine this is going to be anything other than a Norris overtake now. There he is. Kept me waiting, but fascinating that we actually had that much on him, because Seb's still got the line on the inside here. Seb really shouldn't be yielding here if he does. A competitor has locked up further down the field. Norris is still fighting Seb here. This would be better on the off-board.
I think there's been a lock-up.
Sonoda's had a moment.
Let's look at this. The focus on Sonoda.
So
And
Sonoda
yes,
was in the
that's
train, and that's a heck of a lock-up, in fact, because that's very difficult to get back out of there. And he only gets back out of there ahead of Stroll. That helps Stroll massively, because we can maybe get on the back of Sonoda now. Daniel Ricciardo's fallen out of the DRS range as well. He might get back into it at the sort of twisty final sector, but I think Sonoda was the one ahead of Danny Rick, and maybe he had to compromise a corner or two. Just waiting to see how he does, and yeah, he's back in line. As predicted, he's back into DRS range by the end of the start of the main straight anyway, and there's Vettel up ahead having a look at his teammate Norris. Once again. Although just having a look this time. No actual move made. And whilst we're behind Norris, we'll use him as much as possible. I don't want Seb to overtake Norris because otherwise it's a constant back and forth. The points for overtaking would be nice, in fairness, but I kind of want him to just build his fuel up. Stroll or body up, pal. Let's deploy and get on the back of Sonoda here.
Use energy, no saving required.
We'll get your fuel back later on, Lance. We could even possibly push the tyres here as well, because Lance is coming in anyway. If he comes in one lap even early, that just means we just take a little bit off his medium stint as well. We just push him a little bit less on that stint. But getting back into Sonoda's DRS range is crucial here. Not really gained at all on this lap, annoyingly. Yeah, I know it's empty. Well, that did absolutely nothing. Lance Stroll is useless. With deploying ERS, he managed to lose time on Sonoda. I just deployed it in the wrong place, really, I think. Yeah, so unfortunately, Vettel doesn't seem to be able to take Norris anymore. I say unfortunately.
Save fuel.
I'm just thinking with Lance Stroll, we did test the hard tyres. Seb's having another go at Lando here. We did test the hard tyres with Lance. Seb might actually have the benefit here. Oh dear.
Taking a look again, it involves
We watched that
Sebastian
live.
Vettel.
So Seb logs up here as well. And he gets
You can really
Lando's
see the
front wing.
contact there, and that caused a lot of damage. What a shame.
Sugar.
Now just
Seb's
take a look at
Seb's
the
taken the blame for this. I mean, he's the one that locks up, but he is also on the inside.
That's the contact there. Oh, there's chaos on the track.
I mean, it's not quite the Red Bull Ring situation in Austria where it's front tyre to rear tyre and he's behind. He's alongside Lando. But he has got blame for it, unfortunately. How did Seb get front wing damage from that? He got front left wing damage. Norris is coming straight away. I kind of want to see how good Vettel runs without that tiny bit of front wing. The good news for us here is that we've got Stroll behind, so we've got the best possible car to have behind us to see how Seb's speed has been affected. Because he's 1.3 seconds behind now. We can track this over a couple of laps and see if he's actually been affected by that wing damage dramatically. The answer seems to be no, but we can also maybe get Stroll into DRS range to help him out a bit. So we're just using the DRS train to harvest on Stroll. There's a decision to be made around lap 20. Oh no, it would be lap 2060 you would have to do that, because the mediums lasted 40 laps. Sorry, the hards lasted 40 laps. We ran the hards in practice. They lasted 40 laps. Well, to get to 40%, they lasted 40 laps. So I don't know if we can actually do anything here. Yellow flag at the end of turn 9. That was weird. Right, I'm just going to maximize our situation here. I'm going to get Stroll ahead and now use him for the DRS and build up Sebastian Vettel's charge, if possible. I'm really hoping this doesn't actually drop Seb out of any DRS range at all. Such a shame. What tyres did Norris go on to? Hards. That makes sense. He can run the hards in place of a medium and not really lose too much over the full race strategy. I'm wondering if it's just worth pitting Seb really early and then just not pushing as hard on the mediums, because we can get that wing changed if necessary. I don't think the wind's really affecting him. It's saying minor damage, but he seems to be able to, maintain pace. Like, he is harvesting right now and not falling off his teammate, so he's not going slower than his teammate, even with harvest versus deploy, harvest versus neutral. Just realised Lance is supposed to come in the lap after, but he's got worse tyres. With Vettel's penalty, it might be worth swapping. I just want to see if it's worth it. Oh, it's not possible. Oh, that's on 5. Yeah, that is notably slower, so we don't do anything with it. But I think what we do is we swap over who comes in first. Okay, we'll swap over who gets called in first, and that should change the pit window alerts at least. So it's lap 23 for Stroll, I think, is the good one. So on lap 22 for us, we just tell him to deploy for, say, 2 laps. Try and get an undercut going. Oh, no, we tell him to deploy when he gets out of the pits. What am I talking about? We can obviously push the tyres when he gets out of the pits. We can obviously push these tyres before he goes in the pits, but we deploy with DRS, ERS and all that jazz afterwards. There we are. Tactic done. Hamilton and Sainz in, the other soft runners. All right, we put him on the mediums. Pit this lap. Full fuel.
Okay, I'm happy to box.
Go full aggression as well. We'll try and put in a good lap with Stroll here as he's about to pit. Sort of running by ourselves now, though, which is a problem. Mickey's pitting. Another rogue tyre there, I think, in the background. I mean, is it worth? I don't think it's worth the 6 seconds to configure that. We're going to put the new wing on.
Let's box.
And you can go full attack on that one now, Seb, as well. Right, pit stop for Stroll. Mediums on. So no matter what happens now, we've got an advantage if any safety cars or etc. happen, because we've used both tyres. We can do whatever the hell we like. We can put another set of mediums on if that is the optimal spot to do so. Stroll's come out ahead of Albon, who I don't think's even pitted yet. Nope. That looks like we planned that perfectly, really, to come out ahead of the Williams. I didn't, but I believe this stint we can actually go... Yeah, this stint is designed to be aggressive anyway, so... Sebastian Vettel now rounding the final corner. So, yeah, this middle stint is designed to be aggressive. We have decided to change his wing, even though I don't think it's really that damaged. And it takes 6 seconds to replace it, apparently, so if it was worth 6 seconds over the course of the race, then we might as well. Seb obviously also has to... Seb also, of course, had to wait. He also had to serve that 5-second penalty. He's come out behind Norris, hilariously. So it was at least worth that much, that damage. Will we get him to deploy now? How is Stroll still on full charge just by deploying? How's that happened? Stroll deploying right now is... That didn't take long. that was less than one whole lap and Seb's got past Latifi already. Round the outside on that corner. What a pass that is. What a move that was. Stroll's within 3 seconds of Mick Schumacher now. I'm sorry, what? Sorry. Seb's got Norris. So despite having a 5-second penalty, Seb's still got Norris. I feel a little bit sorry for Lando there. He was the one who got taken out and now is actually behind the person who took him out. I wonder if he's got more damage. So Vettel's now rolling up to the back of Albon. Stroll's an awkward one because he's sort of 3 seconds in here. The Haas are squabbling over each other. I'm actually going to tell Stroll to harvest for a lap or 2 to then deploy for 2 laps. And hopefully that differential isn't too much. Zhou Guanyu has had a lock-up, which has put him behind Lance Stroll temporarily. He's done exactly what Seb did and what Tsunoda did earlier on. All right, then. That's put him behind Stroll for now. That's a bit of a shame, really, for them. I'm actually just going to have Lance on neutral down the main line, then harvest once he's off it. I could always make Stroll do 2 mediums aggressively. Is Vettel going to close on Zhou Guanyu at all? He's 7 seconds behind. I don't know why the interval's gone weird. Albon's in the pits now. Someone's had a moment in sector 1. Can't tell whom.
Did somebody spin out there?
Magnussen. So in the 2 Haas fight, Stroll's still in the distance behind. Oh, they've actually touched. It looked like they actually touched each other. So Magnussen's now behind Stroll, and that has actually also caused Stroll to be on the back of Mick. It doesn't look like Mick's got damage. Norris has done... In the final sector, he's just lost it inexplicably and forced the lapping cars to pause for a moment. At the very least, it's kept Leclerc and Verstappen from lapping Vettel. If there's any safety cars now, then we're still in a good spot there. Stroll is only 6 seconds total. 7 seconds total off 10th. So despite his incident, he's still not that far off.
Yeah,
I know this stint is designed to be aggressive, but I also don't want him to go under 40% at any point. So just while he's got Mick for company, we might just let him and Mick swap places a couple of times. He's actually successfully defending okay there. I'm just going to do micromanagement on harvesting with Stroll on this lap. Just harvesting the non-DRS zones and then still have him on neutral everywhere else. See if we can do anything with this. It's a nice fight between Mick and Lance at this point. It's probably better to actually just stay behind Mick now that he's got ahead.
Good job, keep pushing.
Just keep harvesting behind Mick and then we can sort of use that to our advantage. Vettel has taken a second out of Zhou Guanyu. So what I want to try and do with Stroll here is get past Mick on a neutral deployment and then deploy once he's passed. Just to go all out again to maybe try and close up a bit on Tsunoda. Because we are losing time on Tsunoda now. If we can maybe get 1 or 2 seconds out of Tsunoda, that would be great. And maybe break the train on Mick as well in the process. Because we are slowly pushing ourselves back into Magnussen again. So just need to harvest a bit. We're only up to 47, which is irritating. Right, so Stroll has gathered enough charge now to maybe make a move, and he's doing it here, annoyingly. So if he gets ahead, deploy. All things aggressive. Get ahead of him, Lance. Now deploy. Use it so much. Use it a lot. Deploy, Stroll, deploy. He's going to have DRS on the straight, that's fine. But over the remainder of this lap, try and break that DRS. It's not going well so far. See if you can try and build up a second. I mean, then there's the fact there's a second DRS line is not going to help, but there's the detection point, mix in it. But by the time they get on the main straight, it's how much Mick gains back on that straight is going to be the crucial point. So he's within 8/10 by the end of it. It's whether he can get outside a second at this stage here. And it does look like Stroll's done it. So watching Mick Schumacher here, any DRS deployment at all? No. Gasly, Tsunoda and Ricciardo are fighting each other, but I don't think it's really backing them into Stroll at all. How are you on tyres? You're sort of on par for tyres again. But Mick is now 2 seconds outside DRS and should be okay.
Loads of energy.
Vettel's fully charged now as well. There's been an incident in sector 1. It's an Alfa Romeo off. It's Valtteri Bottas, so I don't think that's going to matter for our race. They've done what everyone else has done on turn 3 by the looks of things. So Stroll, can you do anything? Just trying to work out whether or not we can get anything done with Stroll here. Right, push with Vettel. See if he can close the gap on Guan Yu Zhou. Magnussen has joined Mick Schumacher. So that could give them something to deal with and might allow Stroll an opportunity to harvest ERS at some stage. If that helps sort of slow that pair down. And in fact, they've got to deal with being lapped soon as well. I just realised the reason why Vettel lost a lot of time on Guan Yu Zhou was because he was lapped. But now he's now within 5.5 seconds, pushing with ERS. Not pushing with fuel though. Even though he's got 1 more kilogram of fuel than Lance, they're both the same plus laps for some reason. It doesn't look like it's going to be a points race, but it's still progress. I'm just trying to think if whether Mick had an incident or not, and I think it was just the fact he crashed into Magnussen, it seemed, or Magnussen span directly sort of on him and slowed him down in that process and pushed him back into Stroll. So it was effectively an off for both Haas at the same time. Gonna have to go neutral now. But Vettel has got within 4.5 seconds of Zhou. Kind of want to see what the process is with harvesting and deploying, so we'll harvest with Vettel again. We'll use this as a learning exercise more than anything. We're not too far off the second round of pit stops, I don't believe. Yeah, the pit window's in 3 laps. I might hold off on the pits until we actually are at 40%. The tyre wear on the mediums just seem to be better than anticipated. So Vettel got within sort of 4.2, now he's harvesting. I was about to deploy with Vettel, he's regained all his ERS, but he's got to the Perez-Hamilton-Sainz fight to just about lap him. He's holding them all up now, which is hilarious. But once he lets them by, I'm going to push with him. He's only lost about half a second harvesting over the course of 3 laps, I think it is. So that's good work. The pit window for Stroll has just opened, but he's still got 15% on those tyres before I want to even try anything. And he's still not let them by. He'll let all 3 of them by on the main straight, which is great timing on his part. And now we deploy with Vettel. He'll lost obviously a lot of time in that. He'll get that time back when they all lap Zhou in a moment. Provided they don't pit again before that happens. I'm also going to push him on fuel. He's got a little bit extra.
Copy.
I want him to get Zhou, because if he gets Zhou, then he can get into that Haas fight. And more importantly, actually, if he deploys now and gets on the back of the Ferrari, he'll get DRS off the Ferrari. Didn't appear to get it there, but there's a good chance with deploying everything right now with them 3 squabbling. This sector does allow cars to sort of bunch up a bit. Is there any chance at all that Sebastian Vettel gets into the DRS of that Ferrari now for the main straight? Because he's already gained that second back pretty much on that lap. Or is the game coded not to bother with that DRS? So I think he's within it, but so it's a bit of a shame if not. I do wonder if the game's coded there. I think it must be. I'm trying to think of an incident where anyone's had DRS off a lapped car. So I'll make sure Stroll pits on whatever lap he goes 40% on. Still 21 laps of this race, so we definitely get to do the second stint of softs, a shorter stint. So it means we can push them a little harder too. Stroll, though, irritatingly, is 10 seconds off that fight. And I can't really afford to harvest because Magnussen's keeping pace. Although I think people are lapping that fight right now, which is helping.
We have low battery.
Those 3 cars are still not lapped Zhou, and Vettel's within 4 seconds now. So we'll just harvest now whilst they negotiate him. Come on, Vettel. Vettel, crucially, 3% behind Stroll. I think the intended lap was actually 46 for him and 47 for Vettel. So I think they're actually going to be able to go an extra lap or 2 here. So I think we basically gained a lap on Stroll. I'm just conscious of the fact that Vettel and Stroll are 3% apart now, which is basically a lap's worth of tyre. If you push. I was not paying attention. Those lapped vehicles really did a number on Zhou. Vettel is on the back of Zhou. I was too busy thinking about strategies. I didn't even pay attention to the action. So we ignore the pissed off Stroll because he's still got basically 2 more laps, I think. And irritate. Oh. Sainz and Hamilton, you beautiful, beautiful monsters. They lap Zhou on that lap and then pit. You worked so beautifully in my favour there. Sector 3's had a moment. It's Valtteri Bottas again. No, he's pitting. It might be Valtteri Bottas, and now he's pitting. So Valtteri was pitting anyway because it said pit on the timetable, even though he was at this point of the track. So it looks like he was pitting regardless and just happened to spin at the same time.
For Alfa Romeo.
So yeah, Zhou and Vettel trading places right now, but Vettel is important right now. Importantly, Vettel is harvesting. Just going to harvest with Stroll for 2 laps because the Haas are pitting right now anyway, so he's got that little bit more buffer. So I'm going to harvest but push on the other 2 fronts, and I think Stroll comes in end of next lap? Or end of this lap? End of next lap, I think, for Stroll. And then end of the lap that follows for Vettel.
Yeah.
So Stroll's just crossing the line now. Back to softs you go, Sunshine. He'll come out ahead of Norris. Mick's now in the pits as well. Seb's still fighting Zhou and still harvesting at this point in time. It's worth noting. And has actually taken Zhou despite harvesting. Go neutral, push on your fuel, Seb. Not going to tell you to deploy because I want you to deploy when you're out of the pit. So appear to have called it exactly right on Stroll here. Look how much further he's managed to take those tyres for some reason. 40%. He's not... Well, I don't think he even hit 40% on those tyres before he came in. So into the pits he goes for soft. Tsunoda and Ricciardo are in also ahead of us. Zhou's come in behind Vettel, crucially. So Vettel is free for a lap. Got past him and then Zhou's pitted without challenging him. Perfect for Seb, by the way. Perfect for Seb there. Vettel is temporarily up to 10th again. It's a good pit stop for Stroll. Stroll comes out, crucially, I think, behind these vehicles that would lap him anyway. Perez, importantly, is he going to get out ahead of two cars that are going to lap him regardless? Yes, I think he is. Well, we'll just have to deal with Seb's pit stop. Oh, actually, the Merc and the Ferrari are a little bit off Stroll here. He's going to have to let him by somehow. Oh,
good.
sorry, you should be deploying. Forgot you were still harvesting, Stroll. Delay this lapping as much as possible, Stroll, now. Delay this lapping. They're getting close. Or they've got in range in this last sector, which means they probably stay behind him this entire last sector because there's no place to overtake here. Unless he lets him by at the top of the hill. So Vettel's in the pits. Stroll, I don't know whether he's let those cars by yet. If he does, he's about to let them by at the end of the... He's let them by on the main straight, which isn't the best news for Stroll, but he is deploying at the same time. Norris is temporarily ahead of Vettel here, but I think Norris is going to pit again, or be really slow. He's got full battery. Deploy on your outlap, Seb. Where's Zhou? It says 4 seconds. There's Zhou. He pulled out 4 seconds in the pit stops on Zhou. Good work, Sebastian. Good work. And this actually isn't going to be a 5-star all the way. It can be a 4-star, though. In fact, it might be a 5-star because he pitted late. We might make it a 4-star, though. I say star, they're not stars, but you know what I mean. But Vettel pushing 1.8 seconds off Magnussen. Seb's brought him back in. Seb's managed to bring himself back into the fight with the Haas. And that's largely because Norris is holding him up as well on old hards. Norris might run this to the end. It's going to be ridiculous, but he might run it to the end. I don't know if Stroll's actually catching anyone, so... No, he's 9 seconds behind Gasly, so you might as well harvest sunshine. And Vettel is now in this fight. Welcome to the fight for 14th, Sebastian. Ocon's pitting. Has an entire pit stop over Tsunoda, so he won't lose the position at all. I wonder if Seb will take any of the Haas before Norris. Seb's on the inside of Magnussen. Seb's on the outside of Magnussen. Sebastian has passed Magnussen with Mick ahead. A little bit harder because Mick was having his own look at Norris. We'll watch this overtake because it was beautiful, because it was in a position I wasn't expecting. Curious angle there. That clearly shows the overtake.
Moving up a position.
There's Zhou in the background, just rolling around on his own. I feel sorry for the Williams, meanwhile, still. Oh, look, Lord Lando. I was too busy looking at the lapping situation for safety car potential. One of the Haas has just gone whoomp past everyone. That's Mick. Lando nearly just takes Seb out for good measure. You know, tit for tat. Importantly, Mick got past Lando there, so now Lando has the DRS on Mick on the next straight, but it's Seb on new softs versus Lando on old hards. This should be a move he could probably make before the DRS, just like he did with Magnussen. Go on. No, he hasn't gone for it. He hasn't gone for it. But I don't really know how much overspeed the McLaren's going to have on the Haas, so this could be Seb on Lando. He's got his nose in again. We know how that panned out last time, and I think he's gone ahead of him. Yes, Sebastian. Nope, hang on, Norris is still there. I think by the end of all this... Oh, he's still deploying, I just realised.
Copy.
By the end of all this, Pillar is just irrelevant. We just phased through it. I don't think Norris has got his nose in anymore. Sebastian is still in the DRS of Mick, so we are now clear of them entirely. I think we have to bring Stroll down. Vettel can probably push like really hard still, but while he's behind Mick, we might as well just stick on aggressive. Norris is 1.3 seconds behind. Could use this opportunity to harvest. And Zhou's actually joined the Norris party as well. Just don't worry about overtaking Mick just yet, Seb. There's 12 laps. He is your mentee. Don't worry about it. Show him how it's done in a couple of laps' time. Just harvest that ERS. Harvest the ERS. Pass him and then deploy that ERS so you get well clear. Or just overtake him now. You know, whatever you prefer. Despite all his issues, Vettel is only 6 seconds behind Stroll. Says a lot, really, doesn't it? A 5-second time penalty and 6 seconds to replace the wing. That's 11 seconds total in that one pit stop, and with the actual crash itself factored in, he's now only 7 seconds behind Stroll. 6, actually. Vettel is harvesting.
Copy.
Vettel is still harvesting.
Okay.
Vettel has cleared Mick Schumacher whilst harvesting ERS. We'll watch that one in an outboard because it probably looks better. In the turns of 2, 3, I think that counts as, and then 4, it is done. And Vettel is now officially the car behind Stroll. After all that, we might be able to lap a Williams. We're about to lap a Williams with our Aston Martin. With our Aston Martin that had an incident. Stroll has already lapped this Williams, is worth noting, and he had a moment of his own, but it wasn't quite as dramatic. I feel really sorry for Williams. Still harvesting. Mick will come back at him in this lap. I'm expecting to see Mick on this right-hand side, There he is. Just. I'm interested to see what happens with this Williams and whether or not it's going to be a problem. I might just tip to neutral during this section because you harvest during this section anyway. I've noticed. This does appear to be the harvesting section. So go neutral to lap Nicholas Latifi. So I'm intrigued to know how that did with Mick behind. 7/10. Deploy in this section, Sebastian. Deploy. Break the 1 second, Sebastian. Break it.
You can use energy. Use energy.
Break it real good. Neutral in this section because you'd use it anyway. So I just want you to I don't want you to overuse it in this section because Mick's going to have the DRS regardless. Actually, does Mick not have the DRS? We still closed up a bit by the end. And deploy again. Tactical
Use
deployment.
energy if you need it. Use energy.
Try and break the DRS for the next DRS straight. Is the goal here, Sebastian? Couldn't say the word goal there for some reason. Stroll back to neutral. 77 seconds off Ricciardo now, Stroll. The fight with Tsunoda, Gasly, Ricciardo is broken up, actually, now. They're all out of DRS with each other, except briefly, as they're being lapped, / lapping other cars. And Seb has officially broken the DRS on Mick. So back to neutral then. I don't really think we can ask for much more now. We just allow Seb to pull out the gap thanks to the lack of DRS. We allow Stroll to harvest a little bit. Actually, Stroll isn't losing time whilst harvesting. It's just a shame there's not enough laps left to get Ricciardo, because we can now deploy on him. Vettel's actually gaining on Stroll. 2 laps to go. Vettel is within 4 seconds of Stroll. He is pushing though, so I do need to bring his fuel consumption down, and Stroll can do the reverse. But with 3 laps to go Shush. But with 3 laps to go, Stroll is 6 seconds behind Ricciardo. That doesn't really seem to change too much via harvesting / deploying. We've managed to bring it down by about a second overall. That's about it. And with 3 laps to go, there's not enough to harvest, deploy to get within range of him, unfortunately. Vettel is, though, closing on Stroll regardless of all that. But again, only 3 laps, so I don't think either of our drivers are doing any better than 13th, 14th. It's still 13th, 14th, and it's both drivers in the top 15 had we gone for that streak. So I feel a little bit more confident that we are going to be able to get one driver in the top 15 in every race now. Next time out is Monaco as well, let's not forget. Which relies entirely on... Oh, actually, that relies entirely almost on qualifying, which we're not great at. But I think we are better, actually, in low speed in comparison to other cars. I think what we lack in general is high speed compared to everyone else. That's where we lack the most. So we might not actually be awful at Monaco. We might be able to get out of Q1 in Monaco, I think. I think it's why we shined a little bit in Miami. Whilst there were a couple of long straights, there are a couple of sections where low speed corners do help. And that's where we were particularly strong in Miami as well. In that in that sort of twisty, chicaney sector, much like the third sector here, we seem to be quite strong as well. Tsunoda with a point, his first point in the season. Looking at this, Bottas with 4 more. But in terms of our rivals, it's 1 point for AlphaTauri and 4 for Alfa Romeo, and that is it. No Haas points, no McLaren points, no points for Gasly. But yeah, annoyingly, it's 1 point for Tsunoda, who will stay behind Seb, but will go ahead of Stroll now. But we'll stay on board for the remaining 3 laps, just enjoy the vistas. I really don't think there's much harm going aggressive on Vettel for these last 3.
Use everything from the tyres.
Miles will see how close he could have gone. I think we can also then go aggressive on Stroll's tyres for these last 2 laps as well.
Good to push.
Just to see what you can do. Vettel pulled in, actually, a significant amount of time there. This is very much a what could have been for Aston Martin, though, as last lap has been initiated by Charles Leclerc. Front 3 is separated out quite a lot, considering they were within DRS of each other before the first pit stops. It's a little bit weird that Verstappen is 10 seconds behind on Hamilton 18. Alonso's got Russell at some point during this race as well. Russell's not had a particularly good race, but it is very much a race of what could have been for Aston Martin. Stroll's lock-up cost him about half a dozen seconds, all things considered, and oh look how far behind Daniel Ricciardo he is. Meanwhile, Vettel lost 11 seconds in the pit stop alone, plus whatever he lost in the initial incident as well, and 11 seconds would get him 10th. Just the pit stop time alone would have got him 10th.
Yeah.
It's also worth noting we did change the wing. Whether or not it made a difference, we can't really tell, but the wing alone cost 6 seconds, and I mean overall, depending on whether or not the minor damage we had on the wing was costing Vettel any time, that time removed from the pit stop would see him currently 2 seconds behind Ricciardo, so it's not really made much difference for our overall race. It just swapped our 2 drivers around. But yeah, the initial crash plus the 11 seconds from the penalty and the wing change,
That's Leclerc.
I think Vettel would have been comfortably 10th, and Stroll would have been at the rear end of that chain as well. Someone's had a lockup on this final lap. Someone's crashed on this final lap.
There's been a crash.
Norris.
Here's the replay. Now just take a look.
Well,
at
we were talking about a race of what could have been. Norris has had a race to forget entirely.
Dear me.
It's a shame it wasn't Ricciardo, really, but no points regardless. Tsunoda holds on for 10th. I'd actually almost preferred it to be Gasly, because at least constructors-wise, then Gasly's the one with the points already. But Stroll ends up 5.7 behind Ricciardo. Did a nice little number in the last couple of laps, closed it up a little bit, and Vettel within 3 seconds by the end. You could see Stroll in the near distance. He closed that gap up remarkably well. Just Norris and Latifi to cross the line. Latifi not too far behind. Latifi lapped by everyone that wasn't Albon. Norris had a crash at the end there and still ended up ahead of Latifi, plus a lap.
Well done, Lance Stroll. Excellent result for the Canadian driver. Today, Aston Martin demonstrated that they can go very far indeed.
Yep, they managed to bring everything together. Strategy, engineering and driving. They've had a very strong weekend indeed. For
Yeah.
the next Grand Prix, make sure you join us at the renowned city circuit of Monaco. Prepare yourselves for one of the most legendary rounds of the season.
Can't help but feel our team are getting a little bit overexcited about a 13th and 14th place finish. It is 5 places gained for Lance Stroll, though, and that's not entirely just down to Lando Norris. He legitimately did get past Magnussen, Schumacher and Zhou Guanyu over the course of the race. Obviously, Vettel and Norris had their own moments. So 3 of those places were legitimate for Stroll, 2 of them were gifted. Although I will say, of course, that Magnussen and Schumacher did sort of gift places as well, because they had their own incident and Zhou Guanyu had his own incident. But Lance Stroll had his own incident, so take all the incidents out of that, they all kind of neutralise each other out. So on the assumption that they all lost roughly the same amount of time per incident, Lance Stroll has legitimately got past 3 drivers today, and that gives me a certain amount of hope, especially as Sebastian Vettel had an even bigger incident, a time penalty and a wing change, and still ended up ahead of 4 of them. 3 of them. I do have to presume Lando did have a certain amount of damage because he really didn't make any inroads from 18th. Meanwhile, the remaining order stayed the same as last time I gave you an update there. Does mean that Charles Leclerc does close the gap on Carlos Sainz, his teammate, to just 11 points as we head to Monaco, his home race. He also got fastest lap, did Charles, so just those 11 points. The 2 Red Bulls both on 95. Fernando Alonso enters the top 9 drivers with an 8 points finish. And Yuki Tsunoda does unfortunately leapfrog Lance Stroll with that singular point. Seb stays ahead of Lando in the meantime. And constructors-wise, nobody in the bottom 4 scored a point, and AlphaTauri in 6th only scored 1 point. So, should have swapped over earlier there. But if we pick things up over the remainder of this season, we're still in a good point. None of those 3 really that are in our range, AlphaTauri, Haas and McLaren, none of them are really pulling away just yet. And we're starting to get competitive with them. So we've managed to weather the storm early on, and they've not managed to score too many points in that period. Lance Stroll gets another development point in the process, and Seb with another decent race, 350 points. Sebastian Vettel had 16 successful overtakes. 16. Stroll only had 5. Unfortunately, because we didn't get into Q2, we did lose that particular gamble, but it's only 20 grand, so we still gain 4 million. Of course, this money is also increased by that helipad, I think it was, improvement. That extra % from the improvement of that particular facility does improve this money as well. And 1% on 4 million is a lot. I mean, that's what happens when you will do Lance Stroll's point here, and we'll do it on braking because he does continue to lock up everywhere. All our drivers are terrible in braking for some reason. Another 6.5 grand a week passive money. We have met our expectations in that race, so that's good news. The board aren't going to be annoyed with that. The side pods are designed after Monaco at the start of June. So we'll have new side pods for Azerbaijan and Canada, I think, are the 2 races after Monaco. So we'll have new side pods for those. They're particularly high-speed tracks, so nice to have a part that reduces aero or reduces drag, particularly on those ones. Monaco, it doesn't really matter too much. Monaco's all about the wings, really, in terms of development. As you can see there, low-speed cornering and dirty air cornering in the low-speed sections, and most importantly, they're the main things for Monaco, and that they're not part of the side pods, really. That's all about cooling and top speed. But that's it for Spain. It wasn't quite Spain without the S, but there was a little bit of pain involved there. I think we could have had a points finish with the least Sebastian Vettel if he hadn't gone off. Stroll could have been challenging in that pack, particularly with the AlphaTauris and Daniel Ricciardo towards the end if he hadn't gone off himself and lost about 6 seconds. But it's still a promising result. It's promising, at least trajectory-wise, the way we're going. That opening lap, that opening 2 laps really from Sebastian Vettel in particular, holds a lot of promise, and we're going to fight tooth and nail to re-sign him as soon as possible. Wage demands to be damned. we're re-signing him. And hopefully we can develop a car to a point where he can be challenged again towards the front before that contract runs out again. But that's long term. Short term, the crown jewel of Monaco next. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, all that jazz down below. You know how it helps. Bye now. Until next time. Ta-ra!